Okay, y'all, we're gonna get started here. So I'm gonna take a few minutes actually. I'm gonna talk about histamines, or as we call them at my house, the histameanies. And we're gonna break it down a little bit as to what exactly is happening with those histamines and allergic reactions, right? Talk about the different types. And then we're gonna talk about ways you can address this naturally using nature, okay? Because it's totally doable. So we're gonna get there. First, I just gotta lay some foundation so we understand what it is that we're talking about and what these things are and what they do, okay? So I have a few notes so that I can remember to tell you guys everything. So what are histamines? So histamines it's a chemical response in your body by your immune system. So your immune system releases these chemicals, right? These histamines. So why on earth do you want your body doing that if it causes problems like allergies? You know, your nose is running and your eyes are running and you're itchy. Maybe you have hives. Maybe it gets extreme, right? So why on earth do we want or need these? Why is our body making something that hurts or harms us, right? Here's something most people did not know. You may not know at all. Histamines are actually something we need in our body. That's why they're there in the first place. The problem happens is when we have too much. Too many histamines are going off, and now we have the problem. So, I hear you already. What exactly do histamines do, right? Okay, I'm gonna make sure to tell you everything that we need. So, here's just a short list of some of the things that histamines do for you that we actually need. Regulates our sleep cycles. Yep, regulates our sleep cycles. It helps with cognitive function and memory. We kind of need that. It's important, right? Body temperature regulation. That's a good one too. We need that. Mood and emotion cycles. Yeah, we need some of that stabilized. Yep. And then also food intake. Or in other words, helping your body know what to do with food once it gets in, right? So that's what's a partial list of some of the important things the histamines actually do. This is why we have them in our body. This is why they exist, right? So histamines actually are stored in the tissues in the body, and they're actually technically stored in mast cells. Mast cells they're actually white blood cells. We're not going to go too detailed. I'm not going to lose you. Hang tight. We're going to get there. Just laying the foundation so that you understand when we start talking about things that attack it, what we're attacking, okay? So histamines are in mast cells, and you have histamine receptors all throughout the body. And the problem is when your body's releasing too many of these histamines, right? And the mast cells are going crazy because they live in the mast cells. And now if the mast cells are releasing them, then the receptors are going crazy. This is the problem. So how do we address this problem? Well, I'm going to talk about the different types of histamines because there are actually different types. And they're kind of related to different parts in the body and different things. And so understanding that helps you understand how to address them better. Okay, there are actually 4 different types of, more or less, of histamine responses. There's H1, okay? Different types. H1 it's in the whole body. They're in the brain. These receptors are in the airway, the blood vessels mainly. This is typically what happens if you have too much of the H1 just going off. This is what happens with the allergic reactions that we usually see. You've got your runny eyes, you're sneezing, itchy eyes, maybe you have hives, maybe it's really bad and you go into anaphylaxis. For those who don't know, that's when you stop breathing because everything swells up and your airway swells up and you can't breathe. And it's really dangerous. So this is what can happen if you have too much of the H1, right? It's the most common thing. H2 is actually in the stomach more, in the heart, mainly in the stomach. So yeah, we have histamines going off in the stomach, and if you have a problem with a lot of food allergies, you're probably going to have a problem with those histamines in the stomach, and this is why we need to address those. See why we're breaking this down? You're following me, right? Okay. So the H3 ones then are actually in the brain. This is for neurotransmitters, dopamine, acetylcholine. You don't need to know what those do. You just know that, well, we kind of need it, but then if we have them going off in the brain, that's a problem. Because now we've got things crossing the blood-brain barrier. Now we have brain fog, memory issues. Yeah, you're tracking what I'm saying, right? You get that I'm showing you this is what too many histamines going off can do, okay? And then H4, of course, is in the bone marrow, it's in the blood, it does even more things. But the biggest problems for us are those first three, and mainly the first two. But for the general public, for most of us, it's those H1s that are just, it's really difficult, right? So this is what we want to look at. So when we go to address it, and you go to the doctor and you say, okay, I have problems with allergies, they're going to give you, usually they'll give you an antihistamine. An antihistamine is going to block those histamine receptors from sending out too many histamines. And typically that's your Benadryl, your Zyrtec, your Claritin, your Allegra. These are your H1 blockers that are going to block the basic things that you think of for allergies in general. H2 blockers actually is like Pepsid, and that helps get stomach juices going properly help address too many histamines in there. So that's what happens there if you go to the doctor. Here's the difference between an antihistamine, right, that blocks those receptors, and mast cell stabilizer. Remember, I said mast cells are those little white blood cells where it's part of the immune system that holds or houses our histamines in our body. So why aren't we just addressing it at the source? If you can stabilize the mast cells, they'll stop releasing too many histamines in the first place. That's the difference between an antihistamine and a mast cell stabilizer. So now we kind of get the foundation of what we're dealing with. So what happens when it's spring, you go outside and pollen's going off everywhere, and your eyes are itchy and watery, and your nose is running, and you're sneezing like crazy. So immediately you walk outside and you have too much of those H1, histamines being released, because your immune system recognizes it as an attack and says, go fix it, go address it, and releases it, but releases too much. Yeah. So that's what happens when we have environmental allergies. And that's what that reaction or response is. So you can have a different type of response, not just environmental, but you can have one from toxins. So toxins can also create too many histamines, and that's usually like mold, mildew. Those are horrible, right? And that can cause a whole different level of reaction in the body, and a whole different level of histamines being released, and different types of histamines being released in the body. So then that becomes a problem, and you can take all the antihistamines you want, but you may not make as much progress if you're continuously around mold and it's continuously coming in. You got to address that, right? But other toxins can do that as well. Here's the thing. If your immune system is a little lower and you just happen to be that person who gets sick often, if anything's going to go around, you're going to get it. When you do get it, you're sick longer, right? Typically that means your body's immune system needs more support. Also means your detox pathways need a little more help and support. So typically if I see people who present this way, they have allergies to everything all the time, I'm probably going to start with the gut, right? And then also look at what's going on with the histamines. Why is your body producing them? But also going to look at detox pathways, because if you don't address detox pathways, that's a problem. What am I talking about? Okay, we want to address the liver. Is it working right? The spleen, the kidneys, lymphatic system, is it getting rid of the toxins as they come in our body? You just want to make sure that that is happening okay. And there are tons of herbs that can do that for you to address it. Dandelion's one of my favorites for that. So you want to make sure you can do that. But our sensitive people, our really sensitive people, may actually have problems with mast cells. This is a different level of problem. You can have something with a mast cell disease or something called mast cell activation syndrome. This means the actual cells aren't functioning properly, and they're functioning too much, and they're just releasing too many histamines everywhere in the body, everywhere. When that happens, usually people who have, it's called MCAS for short, mast cell activation syndrome, those people usually end up losing a lot of foods. They're allergic to a lot of things. They go into anaphylaxis very quickly, where they stop breathing and they just can't, the reaction is so extreme in the body. And this is very dangerous if that happens. There's a reason I'm talking about it, so hang tight. So this response in the body is very extreme, but can also happen by just walking outside in spring, and already we call it the histamine bucket. Their histamine bucket is full and it's overflowing now. They walk outside and it takes just too much pollen and they'll go into anaphylaxis. Why? Are they anaphylactically allergic to the pollen drifting around in the air and never go outdoors ever again? No. No, it's those mast cells releasing too much. The histamine bucket filled up, too much happened, and that's what happened. The reason I'm talking about that is because where we happen to live in the Gulf Coast, there's a lot of mold here. And mold is a huge trigger for turning on mast cell activation syndrome or any type of mast cell disease. This is why I'm talking about it, so that you know, maybe you've tried antihistamines, you've tried some of the things that I'm going to get to tell you about, and you hadn't had any response, and you're just getting worse. And now you find you're allergic to a lot of foods and what's going on. And so sometimes I tell people, also let's address that, the mold, because it's so prevalent here where we live. I live in the Houston area, and especially after all the hurricanes, Hurricane Harvey 6-7 years ago, that was horrible. And ever since then, so many of our buildings are filled with mold. So this is something that doesn't always get addressed, but it's important to address it. Otherwise, you're not going to make progress, right? Okay, so we've talked about exactly what histamines are, what mast cells are, where they come from. The fact that they actually can help us, they have a function, it's just when they're going off too much is the problem. So now let's talk about how to address them. Okay. I'm going to talk about my ways to address them. I'm just going to share with you some of my favorite tips of things you can do naturally to address it. And I'm going to start with the biggest one that nobody thinks about, but it helps really well, specifically if you have food allergy issues and responses, but also if you have the typical allergy responses. So if you have food allergy responses, you're losing food, you're allergic to everything, you get into something you're allergic to, now you've got to get that out of your body. Do a Himalayan sea salt and vitamin C bath. This will help. So what's that look like? Himalayan sea salt specifically has the minerals that you need when you combine it with powdered vitamin C or something like rose hips, high vitamin C, put it right in there. You know, you could literally take a vitamin C pill, crush it up, and put it in your water. It doesn't take a lot, not at all, in a big bathtub, just a little bit, with, I would say, 1/2 pound to 1 pound of Himalayan sea salt. Yep, that's a lot. You're soaking your whole body in it, right? So that's going to do a couple things. It's going to help reduce the IgG, IgE reaction in your body, that response that's happening, so it's not as extreme. It's also going to help with detoxing and pulling some of the stuff that caused it in the first place to come out. You're going to have to drink lots of water. Your body will tell you want to stay in that bath about 45 minutes to an hour. Bring a book. But that's very helpful. So that's great for food allergies. So what about environmental allergies? Because there's a lot of those, and things that people don't necessarily go as extreme, but it's pretty bad. Let's go with just my favorite little essential oil blend that I love. I call it the allergy bomb. It's literally taking lavender, peppermint, and lemon essential oils in equal parts, blending them together. I usually put it in fractionated coconut oil and put it in a roller ball, and putting it on the back of your neck, just at the base of the spine, right back there, or on the bottom of your feet. So the three of these together can really help with those environmental allergies. The pollen, the spring stuff, the sneezy, itchy, watery eye stuff. That can help your body to really look at that histamine response. And it acts kind of like Benadryl, Zyrtec, some of that type of H1 response, antihistamine response. But this is important. Those of you who know me, you've heard, you know what I'm going to say. Your essential oils have got to be very high quality, therapeutic grade. This has to be able, such a high quality you can use it directly on your skin. Not all of them are that way. Most, in fact, most essential oils on the shelf, you've heard me say, are not good quality because they're chemically processed, and that's just putting more toxins into your body. That's a no. You want a really good quality, like doTERRA, Young Living, Revive. I love Revive. That's a good one. So you just want something really good quality. And how do you know if it's good quality or not? If it has a supplemental facts box on the back, it's probably in that category of, yeah, way better. So use that. Okay, so we've kind of addressed those two, but I'm going to go a little further. We're going to talk about my favorite herbs. I'm just going to share my top 5 favorite herbs that address histamines of any kind, or even mast cells, really. Okay, there are a lot. There's 20, 30 herbs that I would say most people work with. I'm just going to share with you my top 5 that I like. First, it's nettles. Stinging nettles is an amazing herb that'll really help. Okay. Second is Chinese skullcap. That is not the same as American skullcap. American skullcap Latin is like is Scutellera latifloria. That's not what you want. You want Scutellera biocalensis. So Chinese skullcap, huge difference. Great for histamines. I love that one. Turmeric. Make sure when you do turmeric for histamine response, you do it with a fat, like coconut milk or oil or some sort of fat, doesn't matter what. This is just for absorption, so it's going to work better specifically for histamines because that's what you're trying to target, right? My other ones are going to be goldenrod. Goldenrod is actually a weed that grows prolifically around here or most anywhere in America, honestly. Goldenrod is a really good one to address those histamines. And then the other one's going to be peppermint. I love peppermint. Peppermint is great for hitting those histamines. So those are my top 5 specifically herbs. So how do you use these herbs, Lisa? Okay, I've given them to you. Now what do you do, right? So for most of those, you're going to take about a tablespoon if they're dried and they're not fresh, which nettles fresh is the reason we call them stinging nettles. Just get them dried or in liquid form in a tincture. It's going to be easier. Most of these, you're going to take a tablespoon to about 16 ounces of hot water. You're going to pour the hot water over the herbs that may be in some sort of infuser, right? Or a little tea bag. You're going to cover it and let it steep for like 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes. When it's done steeping, pull the herbs out. Now you have your tea you're going to drink. How many times do you drink it? Well, how bad are your histamines and your reaction? Do it twice a day if you need it, So that's what I would do. Those are my favorite top herbs. Now let's talk about different types of herbs and shifting more into food and medicinal foods that are what I call superfoods. I'm going to go with mushrooms. Medicinal mushrooms, my top 3 medicinal mushrooms for allergies and histamines, okay? Reishi, very, very good. My top 1 go-to for allergic reactions. I love that one. Second one, I would do turkey tail. Third one is going to be something called royal sun. Agaricus falisea is actually the Latin name. So these 3 are really, really good, and I put them together because they're like magic in equal parts. You can get the powdered form in equal parts. And just know when you work with mushrooms, reishi, turkey tails, royal sun, you really want a heat extraction with it, because that's what's going to pull out what you're looking for from it. Mushrooms take a little more to extract the medicinal parts, so you can get the powders, put them in tea, coffee, because they go well with those tannins. You've heard me say this before, right? Put it in there, drink it. Where do you get these herbs? Of course, we have them here at the co-op. This is why we do what we do. Same with those herbs I listed earlier. So those are my favorite. Now let's talk about my 2 favorite rainforest superfoods. You ready? 2 favorite rainforest superfoods that'll really address those histamines. Number 1 is mangosteen. It's a powder, it's a fruit from the rainforest that is amazing. High vitamin C, specifically antihistamine. Also helps with other things like skin and food allergies, lots of things. So mangosteen, we get it raw. You want to do it in raw form if you can get the powder. It's really hard because this is rainforest food, so you're probably going to find it in powdered form. It's what we have here at the co-op. And you want to keep it raw. Don't heat it up because then you'll get more from it. My second one's going to be camu powder. That's with a C. And that is, of course, a fruit. It's a bitter tart one. Very, very high vitamin C. So high vitamin C is going to help counteract those histamines in the body. So those are my two favorite superfoods from the rainforest that I like to work with. How much do you do of each if you're doing the powder? I hear it. Mangosteen, I would do at least a teaspoon, 1 to 2 teaspoons a day. Camu, half of that. So half a teaspoon in the morning, half a teaspoon at night. It's kind of bitter and tart, so stick it in a smoothie, put it in some juice and drink it. Do something in that realm to get it in you. If you are in the middle of having a reaction, an allergic reaction right away, and you need something right away, then I would go for the turmeric essential oil. This is very, very concentrated. I would put that in one drop in water. I would do the camu powder, the mangosteen powder, reishi, stir it up. It's going to be interesting. Take it. Reishi's not heat extracted, but if you're in a hurry and you just need to get it down, it will help. It's going to get you closer in that direction, right? So this is what I would do. Remember to get a little bit of a fat in there. Doesn't matter how or what you're doing, but it can help with that response. So far we've talked about herbs that'll help. We've talked about even bath that'll help. We've talked about superfoods. We've talked about mushrooms. We've talked about quite a few things here, essential oils that are going to help you with the histamine responses in the body. So now I want to address food, because this can be very much a game changer, and people don't realize this. So if you have severe histamine allergic, responses, even if it's just spring allergies or fall allergies every year, your body's just going to go off and you need more support, you can greatly benefit during that time of looking at foods that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Or if you have food allergies and they're getting more severe, I definitely recommend looking at the foods we're going to talk about here in a minute, because those two things will help you greatly. Like I said, it's like a different level of really healing your body and allowing it to repair and learn to rebalance, so it's not sending off too many of these histamines, right? Okay, so let's talk about the foods. So I'm going to talk about two categories of foods. One, I'm going to talk about the high histamine foods. Clearly, these are the foods you want to limit. And then we'll talk about the low histamine foods, the yes foods that we can actually do. So you can do something called a low histamine diet. You don't have to do it forever. You're going to do it as long as your body needs for repair. Typically, if you have environmental allergies, you're going to be doing this during spring, during fall, whenever your triggers are. You usually know it's a month, 2 months, 3 months out of the year. It's horrible. Okay, then that's how long you're going to be doing the lower histamine diet, because it will help get you through that much better. What about if it's food? How long do you do it? Well, now we're talking about repairing the gut. You got to need some probiotics in there, which, by the way, I'm gonna tell you, SB, Saccharomyces boulardii, is the one that's going to help greatly repair the gut with the food allergy issues for this histamine response. It's really, really helpful. It is not typically found in your mix of probiotics. So I have people come to me all the time, Lisa, I'm taking probiotics already. It's a mix. It's 90 billion with 12 strains. I'm good. And I will tell them, read it. Show me where SB is, Saccharomyces boulardii. And they're like, well, it's not in there. Nope, it's not usually put in there. It is a good one. Also happens to detox mold out of the body. So it's a really good one. I really like Saccharomyces boulardii. So that's one you're going to add in there to do repair. But let's talk about food, so that we know if you are doing repair for food allergies, you're going to add that one, Saccharomyces boulardii, in there. And then you're going to go on looking at this low histamine diet for how long? Well, how long does your body need to repair? If you do that low histamine diet for 6 months and you are finding that if you're off of it, there's no change whatsoever, then you have other toxins in your body you have to address. That's usually mold. not always, but usually. Could be Lyme, triggering your immune response to be so low, it just can't get past healing in the gut. Could be something in the gut that's brewing that has to be addressed, that's not allowing you to repair anything else, like E. coli. So this is what you want to look at, 6 months. Some people go, oh, that's a long time. There are people with mast cell activation syndrome that have been on it for a couple years. But you know what they say in the end? Oh my God, it helped and I got my life back. It's a game changer for some people. So let's talk about the high histamine foods. I actually recommend a website called Mast Cell 360. If you are just here for environmental histamine and allergy problems, you're going to go, oh, I'm lost. But if you just go to the diet, the low histamine diet, just look at that. It'll give you the list during that 1 month, 2 months, wherever you're reacting. It's going to help you, okay? So this is why we're going to talk about. So we want to talk about the worst offender foods that you want to limit the most. I'm only going to hit the highlights. I am not giving you the whole list. You can look on that website for the whole list, but there's a reason why I'm targeting these highlighted foods that are the worst high histamines, okay? So some of the top high histamine foods are going to be gluten. It creates an inflammatory response, and the histamines go off. Dairy, some dairy, not all. We'll talk about that in a minute, but most dairy. Soy, absolutely, sending off all the histamines. I'm going to say corn, even though some people say that's low histamine. I'm going to say a lot of people's bodies cannot actually process corn in the gut. If you have problems with any type of food allergies or intolerances whatsoever, I'm going to say avoid the corn. The corn is causing a response in your body that you can't tolerate for a while. Okay? Mushrooms. High histamine, sorry guys. No, not the medicinal mushrooms. Those are different. The body reads them as different. We're talking about cremini, portobello, shiitake, some of those, okay? Spinach, yeah, high histamine. It particularly is. Tomatoes, a lot of those nightshades, eggplant, tomatoes, bell peppers, those typically are higher in histamines. Avocado, I know, avocado's so healing for the body. Not so much for histamines. It's very high histamines. There's actually a group of foods that's high histamines and they're related to latex. Avocados in there, banana, mango. This is very kiwi. They're common high histamine no-nos. Yeah. Strawberries oftentimes cause problems. Most citrus. Some people do okay with lemon and lime, some do not at all. It depends on what's behind those histamines in your body. Lunch meats or bacon, anything with those nitrates, nitrites, or cured meats. Nope. Aged meats. Nope. They're higher in histamine. You want to watch for that. Beef. Beef's a hard one. Bison. Sorry guys. That's really high in histamine. Peanuts. One of the worst. That's why there's so many peanut allergies, right? Ferments. Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying. So if ferments are bad for me, Lisa, how am I going to get those probiotics in me? Well, stick with the Saccharomyces boulardii. Go that route first until you know your body can handle ferments. Okay? Sugar of any kind. Sugar actually, literally, anything that raises your blood sugar is going to raise your histamines in your body. That's just a fact. Does that mean you can't have any at all? None? No, it means find the right sugar for you. The right fruit sugar is going to be way better. Not all sugars are created equal, right? So let's remember that. But if you're doing full-on cane sugar, no. Coconut sugar, probably not. Sorry guys, turbinado, no. Look for something that's way lower sugar. So monk fruit, probably better, though be careful. Sometimes it's mixed with corn. Some people don't do well with that erythritol in there. You just want to look to see what you can find, okay? So, this is what we're looking at for the please limit this list. Now, I feel you right now. You're thinking, well, dear God, what am I supposed to eat, Lisa? Let's get to the yeses, okay? Let's get to the yeses. And honestly, any older foods, leftovers, anything aged, that's a no. It's too high a histamine. So this is why sometimes people can do, they can do, I hear this all the time. Well, why is it I can do turkey, but I can't do it if it's in jerky form? Because the jerky form is been processed, and that's a no, and it has higher histamines. So that's the same for ground meat. If it's really extreme and you're in the mast cell activation syndrome kind of group and food allergy group, you're gonna do better with meats that are more in pure cuts and not ground. The less processed, the better for all the foods. It's just how it is. Let's go with the lower histamine yes foods that most people tolerate. Not all. It could be a food allergy in there, so you have to check it, okay? Rice is usually pretty good. Most gluten-free flours or grains, especially ancient grains, most of those are usually well tolerated. Millet can be tough for some. Broccoli is a yes. Carrots are a yes. Dark leafy greens, except for spinach, sorry guys. But most people do okay with kale, collard greens. You have to check it. See how your body's response is. Apples are great. Granny Smith apples are even better. So that's an even better one. Pomegranates are usually a yes. Berries are usually a yes, not so much cherries. But blackberry, blueberry, strawberry, raspberry. Strawberries I know, raspberry is a yes. So blackberry and raspberry are usually more tolerated, and blueberry. So those are ones to try. Chicken, salmon, turkey, those are usually better, especially if they're whole and not processed, right? Beans that are dry and then soaked and fresh made, not so much canned. Canned is more high histamine, so it's always a better option when it's dry. What nuts can you do? So can't do peanuts, you could do almonds and pecans, they're a little better. Sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, those are usually a little bit better. Coconut specifically if it is fresh. And then for dairy, if it is cheese or butter that is raw and grass-fed, way lower histamines. So, not everyone does well with dairy. Check your body. So, how do you know how to navigate this? These are just the higher histamine, lower histamine in general foods. You want to check your body. How do you do with it? Start with reducing the high histamine foods first. See how you do by incorporating more of the lower histamine foods in your diet. Try the herbs, try the oils, try the bath, try the superfoods. How are you feeling? How is your body responding? Right? Then you can start tweaking foods a little bit more. And this will help guide you to lower histamine load in the body. Way better. This is how you start to reclaim your health back. So this is how you get through the seasonal allergies of spring without going crazy and get mental clarity back. Brain fog lifts. We like this, right? Body's functioning better. We're getting better sleep regulation, right? Because we do need histamines for those things. It's just we don't want too much. So I hope this gives you guys at least an idea of how you can get the load down in your body. As far as sourcing a lot of this, you know we have this here at the co-op. We ship a lot of these products out to people, so you can always contact us at the co-op. We love helping people. Go to shopnaturalliving.com. Of course, we can help you, and we'll get you plugged in. Because you know what I always say, natural healing is totally doable.